Hi, hello, welcome back to another plan with me, finally bringing you December's setup. A good week into December already. But before we get into that, let me give you a quick flip through of how November went. I really enjoyed the very minimal theme of November. You can see I really played around with the different types of weekly setups. I also included note-taking. You could see where I was trying to learn some German and taking notes on that, so that's just kind of dispersed throughout. Oh, and then I just have some video notes there as well. So now this month I am doing something different. I've never really included painting into my bullet journal before, but I thought I would give it a go with this chalkboard paint that I had. I had this for a year already. I had bought it to use in my wedding last year, and it's still like almost full, so yeah, I thought I would try that out. I didn't feel like doing like a straight up Christmas theme, so that's why I went with these birch trees and just kind of like a snowy feel. Of course, I did a test page on the back of my journal just to make sure that this page or this paper could handle the paint, and actually held up very well. You really can't tell on the other side that it was painted. There's a slight bit of warping that happens, but that's just normal when you put something wet onto the paper. Now for this month, I didn't really include a color theme. I decided to just kind of keep it monochromatic and stick with the grayscale. I'm using the Tombow Dual Brush Pen grayscale palette for this, and then I'm also including silver in this spread as well. So I'll give you like a kind of a slowed down version of how I drew my birch trees in my spreads. I started out with a light gray, just going through and doing kind of like zebra stripes, I guess. I'm probably not going to be able to explain this very well, but yeah, just to keep it simple, it was kind of like alternating sides of these like stripes and then lines as well. And then going in with the more of a medium gray and kind of darkening some spots, I decided to do kind of like this stippling or dotting technique just to kind of give it some more visual interest and blending. And then I kind of went through and drew in some more little like slash lines as well. And then I also shaded the bottom trunks of the trees. And then finally, just for like a little bit more depth, I did go in with a darker gray as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the basic technique for that. You can really just play around. I think the more that you draw, the easier it becomes. Even as I progressed throughout this setup, you just kind of find a flow that works and a technique that works really well. And it's just sketchy and quick, and yeah, I think provides a nice element to the entire setup. Now to kind of go along with the birch trees, what I wanted to do this month was do kind of like a white on black style, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. So you'll see that theme throughout the month. And for the white, I've decided to try out this Sharpie paint pen. It's a water-based pen and it's an extra fine point. Oh, and then I also used this silver permanent marker on top of black as well, and that actually worked out pretty well too. This is the same type of marker that I used in my November spread when I used the gold instead. Now, quick note about the white pen. I've also used in the past and still also use later on in this spread, you'll see the Uni-ball white Signo gel pen. And you know, both of them, they do what they're supposed to, but just as a note, and I did find this out later on, but the Sharpie paint pen works really well on the paint, but there are some other places where I didn't use paint. I actually used a Tombow marker instead, just to kind of fill in the black, and writing on top of that didn't actually work as well as when I wrote on top of the paint. So you can see the white is actually very opaque in exactly what I want it to be on top of the chalk paint, but when I try to write over top of the marker, it just doesn't show up as opaque, and I have to go over it a couple times for it to even show. So that's kind of a bummer and a disappointment, but you know, it is what it is. This other thing I didn't like too much about the cover page that I did was the script that I did the month in. I was doing this kind of like elongated, scripty font, but that didn't really translate on the cover page, so it doesn't really seem like it fits or matches the rest of the spread. But it's also one of those things that it's just too late to go back and there's nothing else I could do about it, so we're just gonna have to go with it. And then the other font that I am supplementing with this month is a tall, skinny font. For my calendar layout, I kind of reversed the cover page, so instead of doing it on a black background, I did birch trees behind the calendar just on a white background, and I actually think this turned out really well. I found that I didn't have to define the trees as much. Like, I only used 2 different grays in this one, just because the white helped it to stand out. And this is the spread you can actually tell where I was trying to write on top of the marker with the paint pen, and it's just not as opaque as I would want it to be. So I started to use the Uni-ball Gel Pen, which that also works. Still not the best, but I'm gonna have to find one that really does what I want it to. If you guys know of any, please leave it down in the comment section. That way I can look for it and find something that will make all of my white pen dreams come true. Now the next page, I did the same birch trees on the white background and decided to use paint again for the headers. So this is going to be my notes or brain dump section as well as my habit trackers. So the habits I'm tracking this month are pretty much the same habits. I took out the ones that were actually habits now, because I mean that's the point of tracking habits, and in general it's a place to try to improve on the habits that you would like to create in your life and aren't doing so well in, just to kind of create some accountability and motivation for yourself. So it should be like an ever-evolving, always changing thing, but there are still habits that I would like to be consistent in, but I'm not, so that's why they're here again. Like hello, workout and eating healthy habits. Ugh. Gosh, see how nice that looks on the black paint? Ugh. And it's just so unrealistic to be painting in my journal every single time I want to do something. So like for a monthly setup, that's fine because I have it out, I'm already doing it, but when I'm doing like weekly things and on the go stuff, I'm not going to be pulling out paint, you know? So it's a little bit sad that the paint pen works the best on that. But anyway, enough talk about this paint pen and the black paint. Let's move on, Ariana. The next spread is something that I did kind of like a little version of last month. I did just like a 1-page spread, and this month I decided to do a full page, and it pretty much just looks like another like calendar layout / overview, but it's really specifically for like video planning and just kind of visually tracking out and seeing when I'm going to be editing and uploading and what kind of content I'd like to put out this month. So I thought that this would be very useful. Last month I actually really liked it, but it was so small I could barely like write anything, and there were times where things didn't happen on the days that they should have, and so having to move them, and those tiny little boxes just got filled up so quick. So we're doing a full page this time. And I did the same kind of layout as like the cover page, but this time I used my Tombow marker behind the calendar. And then again, I used that silver marker for the header. And that's the last page I'm going to do. The next one is my first weekly setup, which, because it's already going to be the second week, I just went ahead and skipped week 1 and we're on to week 2. And I did my typical, weekly setup where I just set up a little header and start out the day. So each day will be filled in as they go. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this setup. Hopefully you find some inspiration from this and try out some different things in your journal as well. And apologies for my whining about this white paint pen, but again, let me know if you know of another paint pen or white pen that works really well for you, and I will check that out. Overall, I'm very impressed with this journal. Again, like I was saying in my starting a new bullet journal video, it held up really well to the paint, and also doing these dark filled in sections of marker. Like, I really got like no ghosting at all and hardly any warping in the pages with the paint. If you used kind of like watercolor and a lot more water, I think it would warp it a bit more, but I feel like it held up really well. And I did find a link to it, so I'll go ahead and link that down in the description, as well as list out all of the materials that I used. And with that, that's the end of it. So I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day.